I'm gonna give you guys 5 reasons why the PS5 is worth buying in 2021. Here's a little hint. You're staring at one of them right now. Number 5. New next-gen features. With new hardware comes new features, and the PlayStation 5 is no exception. If you've got the right TV, then expect to see some visual improvements. Does anyone here know what ray tracing is? I don't know what it is, but I know I want it. Actually, I think it has to do with how light is represented. For example, light from the sun looks different when it's reflected off the ground, as opposed to, say, maybe a window. I think realism is what they're going for this time around. The 3 biggest games I can think of that uses ray tracing are Spider-Man, Miles Morales, Call of Duty Cold War, and Devil May Cry 5 Special Edition. Aside from ray tracing, games now also run at a higher frame rate. In some cases, you're also given a choice of what you want to prioritize. For example, Spider-Man Miles Morales offers a performance option that locks the game at 60 frames per second. Meanwhile, enabling features like ray tracing will drop it down to 30. There's also an option that's in between that allows for 60 frames and ray tracing altogether, but some graphical effects are reduced. It just really depends on what you want from the system and how you want to play. Some games even go so far as to offer 120 frames. I'm not even going to show you guys that because, quite frankly, I don't think my TV supports it. The last feature I'd like to mention, and one I think gamers will be able to notice instantly, is load times. Thanks in part to the PS5's new ultra high-speed SSD, games now boot up much faster than they did on the PS4. You want to know how fast? Usually when I'm on the PS4, I'll keep my cell phone next to me and check my mail or go on YouTube while the game is booting up. On PS5, there's no longer enough time to do that. I put in the game, and before I know it, I'm already at the main menu. In the end, you spend less time waiting and more time actually playing the game. Number 4. Free next-gen upgrades. There was a little confusion as to how these upgrades were going to be implemented for the launch of the PlayStation 5. Now, with the system finally out and available, it's actually quite easier than I thought. Put in the game and you'd be asked if you'd like to upgrade to the PS5 version. Can't be more simple than that. I think digital copies work the same way as well. After downloading the patch, you can expect to see visual enhancements, 4K dynamic resolution, and reduced load times. Some games even offer cross-play, as in the case with MK11 Ultimate, allowing PS5 owners to play against those on Xbox consoles. So far, the majority of games offer a free next-gen upgrade. I think there's one game I know of that makes you pay a $10 upgrade fee. If you bought Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War, then expect to pay an extra $10 for the PS5 version. Oh, Activision. When will you learn? The only downside I can think of is that since you're installing 2 versions of the same game, the file size can get rather large. Still, I think it's very neat that even though you have a PS4 version of a game, upgrading to PS5 is just a simple button press away. Here's a little tip I think will help quite a few people out there. If you want to know what version of the game you're playing, hover over the game icon, hit the start button, and go down to game version. Here you can switch back and forth between the two. You're welcome. Number 3. DualSense. Sony's next-gen controller comes equipped with new adaptive triggers, allowing for a more immersive kind of physical resistance. You usually notice it when pulling back the string before firing an arrow, or while charging an attack. Call of Duty fans might also notice it when pulling the trigger back during those intense shootouts. I first felt it when firing the bowgun in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. It's a cool feature that adds a feeling of tension you don't normally get from playing a game. The controller also incorporates something called haptic feedback. There's subtle vibrations that give you a better sense of what's happening on screen. A good example is the beginning of Spider-Man Miles Morales as you're riding the train. You could actually feel the tracks underneath you as the train was coming to a complete stop. Not everything you do in a game will have these features, but when you experience it, you won't forget it. If you're keen on seeing what the new controller can really do, the PlayStation 5 actually comes bundled with a game that fully demonstrates this feature. Astro's Playroom is what it's called, and the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback are obvious the second you start playing. These experiences are further heightened by sounds coming from the DualSense's built-in speaker. Imagine not only being able to feel the splash of the water as you jump in the pool, but hearing the subtle vibrations each ripple gives off. Aside from the new features I mentioned, the PS5 controller just flat out feels good when you hold it. Switch over to the PS4 controller and the thing just feels like a plastic toy in comparison. Number 2. Demon Souls. Let's be honest here. The real reason you bought a PlayStation 5 was to play this game. If you're looking for a challenge, then Demon's Souls is where it's at. This game is brutal. There's no hand-holding, no tutorial, no nothing. You can unlock shortcuts, which work sort of like checkpoints, but besides from that, if you die anywhere during the level, you have to start all the way from the very beginning. You get one chance to retrieve your lost souls, but if you die before that, then you're pretty much screwed. I think my biggest gripe with the game is that it doesn't tell you anything. There are so many things you need to know that's basically discovered through trial and error. I mean, if you're into that kind of thing, then I guess it's good. But most people not used to these kind of games will definitely be lost and frustrated. I know I was. I had to call in my residential Demon's Souls expert to give me some pointers. I'm amazed at how deep the mechanics can get, but part of me was left wondering, how the hell was I supposed to know that without someone telling me? However, there is something special that happens when everything starts to click. You feel like you're part of an inside joke when you start understanding the game and how it operates. If you're familiar with the original on the PS3, you'll be happy to know Demon's Souls on PS5 has remained relatively untouched. Most gameplay mechanics have carried over, with a few exceptions to hit detection, but for the most part, this is exactly as you remember. A lot of the strategies used in the PlayStation 3 version still work here as well. Poor King Doran, you can never catch a break, can you? What stands out this time, however, is the updated graphics. Side-by-side comparison shots make the original look like a PS2 game. I mean, talk about a complete makeover. It's a beautiful game to say the least, offering two different graphic settings, cinematic and performance. I highly suggest you play using performance. This is the type of game that so desperately demands 60 FPS. The slight drop in screen resolution isn't even that noticeable, thanks in part to the beautiful effects on display, which gives us a little taste of what next gen has to offer. You can tell developers are still trying to find their footing, but the stuff that's available shows a lot of promise for future games. Another thing to point out is the sound design. Just hearing the blade come down on an enemy is so satisfying. Just listen. If you don't care much for the new updated graphics, then you should be aware of the new frame rate. Using performance mode, you'll notice the game stays at a very steady 60 FPS. If you remember playing this on the PS3, you'll know there are some areas where the frame rate would tank hard. Aesthetic changes to certain characters are debatable, but there's no doubt this is indeed the superior way to play Demon's Souls. Oh great, now I'm gonna get all these complaints because I said that. Look, it's an awesome game. Just go play it. Number 1. Backwards compatibility. I can't believe it takes a next-gen machine to play last-gen games properly. Games without a next-gen upgrade can still benefit from the PlayStation 5, thanks in part to a new feature called Game Boost, a mode that's enabled by default, allowing games with dynamic resolution to hit 4K, and ones with variable frame rates to run at a locked 60. The thing I love most about this feature is that it basically makes all your old PlayStation 4 games brand new. It's like playing them all over again for the first time. And if there's a chance you somehow skipped out on the PS4 last gen, then you're in for a treat, since you'll be playing most of these games at their best. So it's a win-win situation. I, for one, missed out on a lot of PS4 titles, so being able to play them again with improvements feel like I've been given a second chance. I made a video previously listing all the games that took advantage of this new feature. A common theme were games that generally had trouble keeping a constant frame rate on the PS4 Pro were now able to hold a locked 60 on the PS5. Some games were able to hit a higher resolution while keeping a locked 60 as well. The results were nothing short of amazing and a key selling point if you're thinking about picking up Sony's new machine. If you're interested in what games run and look better on the PS5, then check out the video on the screen right now. For more PlayStation 5 content, hit subscribe or check the links in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.
Yeah. Let's get out of here.